Welcome back to Pause, Reflect, and Heal with Dr. Randy, Pet Vet. This is episode 2 of, we're talking to my really good friend, Paul Blaushild, expert dog trainer. We're talking about training, socialization, and exercise. Episode 1 was a lot about Paul's beginnings and what his general philosophy is, looking at the new puppy and how that kind of works. We're going to expand on a lot of that, so feel free to reach out again to our website anytime, and we'll be glad to help you. We want to remind you that this has been brought to you by Paws Veterinary Center here in Tucson, Arizona, an integrative practice that my wife and I had started now 16 years ago. Hard to believe. We do a lot of telemedicine consults for people, do a lot of interesting information. If you're in Southern Arizona and need help, we're more than happy to do that. It's a fully Western practice, so we have everything in the way of ultrasound, endoscopy, radiology, dentistry, surgery, wellness programs, but it also is an integrative practice where we bring in acupuncture and rehabilitation therapy, ozone, pulse electric magnetic therapy, laser therapy, you name it. We do almost all of it. So again, thank you for Paws for letting us come to you. Paul and I were talking about his philosophy on socialization, and that many times he will, on a pet, bring that pet into his household and train them for some period of time, around 30 days, but it's determined really by the dog. Let me ask you a question on assessments. So I know you get asked a lot to look at a situation. I know I've asked you, we've got an aggressive dog, or we have a dog that's not listening or barking excessively. Talk a little bit about what you look for in that assessment, and you do those both remotely and in person. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Preferably in person.
Right.
Because if I can get into the house and sit down with the owners and the dog present, I'm going to start to experience what goes on. And there's a lot of little subtle things that I can point out to an owner about why a dog does something, if I can kind of catch him in the act.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
It's kind of like the mechanic wants the car brought to him to open up the hood and connect it to the computers, before he tells you over the phone what you need done.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So in person is really great. I've consulted over the phone, over the radio, numerous times. And the feedback has always been pretty positive, because I take the position of, why isn't this dog understanding what their application of what they're doing to try to teach him something? So, before I was talking about kindness, nutrition, exercise, and education. Well, if the dog's getting a lot of support, emotional support, great, kindness. All right, if the dog's eating the right food, and I've learned so much from you, and there's so much more I could learn about proper nutrition and food for dogs. The exercise part is just a no-brainer, all right? Because a tired dog, I was going to say a tired child.
Right. It works the same. I have a couple of those too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a tired dog is going to, be a little bit calmer.
Yeah.
All right.
And let me stop you for a second too, because I think this is really an important point, and you and I have talked about this many times. So many times when I'm seeing a behavioral case at Paws, and I approach it very differently than a lot of people, because I'm working, just as Paul alluded to, on the diet, on the biome, and making sure this dog is balanced, both bacteria and yeast and fungus wise, in its bowel, where we know there's a huge gut-brain connection. But I get a dog, in my practice, and the owner is complaining about the dog chewing in the house or barking all the time. And, my first question that I go to is, how much exercise is this dog getting?
Exactly.
And I'm looking at, like, you mentioned border collie. I'm looking at a border collie, or even, a Malinois. And, they're taking it for a half-mile walk once a day. That ain't going to cut it, guys. I mean, that's just not enough exercise. I mean, I think somewhere I heard Cesar Millan say something about, like, a big dog requires 8 miles of exercise a day. That's hard. That's difficult.
Well,
for people.
and that's why I would always tell people, look, Saint Bernard is a terrific apartment dog.
Right.
Space-wise, no, but
Right.
the need for exercise is just not there.
Right.
All right. Yes, of course they do need some exercise.
Sure.
But they tire quickly. All right. You put a husky, it's built for endurance, miles.
Yep.
And walks, I don't know the medical term for it, but tire out the dog a little bit as far as breathing and hydration.
Sure.
And so the dog will come back from a long walk panting, but it doesn't mean it got any aerobic benefit.
Well, and I think, and you hit the nail on the head. I think the idea is that it has to get its heart rate up. It has to burn up some calories. And so you're right, the aerobic part of it. And, people look at things like dog parks, if the dog is social, obviously, and can handle that. I love that product called Walkie Dog, which is an attachment to your bicycle.
Yes.
And it's wonderful because you can go slow pacing, but it doesn't pull you over. So
terrific if the dog is trained.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly right. That that good point. That has to be in there. And there are other ways. I mean, there are people I know here that will take their golf cart out and slowly have the dog follow. Yes. So there are a lot of different ways. Swimming, yeah, another great one.
And I tell people, look, your backyard isn't that big. Do you have a wall? Oh yeah, or a fence? Throw a ball against it for 20 minutes to a half hour.
Sure.
I know I have a dog that I think I could kill it by just continuing to throw the ball.
It won't stop.
I don't think the dog will ever stop until it's dead.
We see that too.
Yeah. So you can give them good exercise even in small areas, but it has to be aerobic. It has to be healthful.
Let's also talk a little bit about, so I have that mnemonic pets. You have knee, I have pets, and in that mnemonic is exercise. And training and socialization is the T part. So let's talk about socialization because I know a lot of people have dogs that are dog aggressive, we call it, or basically, even people sometimes aggressive or scared. How does that look as far as what you do and how do you do it? Because just to give our listeners an idea, I mean, I've had Paul come in numerous times, call me and say, I have a dog that needs to be around other dogs. Can I come in with this owner? And he's in control at that point, obviously, just so that dog gets that feel of coming to the veterinarian, being around other dogs and people. But talk a little bit about that piece.
Well, when the puppy's first coming to your house, you don't want to overdo protective behavior so that nothing harms the puppy. All right. You need to let the puppy have an interest in exploring and checking things out and learning on its own. All right. Now, you want to be able to take that puppy with you after a conversation with your veterinarian because of the shots and things that are necessary. But it still doesn't mean that you can't bring the dog out. And that's what a lot of people get. Oh, I can't take the dog out of the house until it's 6 months old. Well, you can take the dog out of the house, but don't go to a dog park.
Sure.
Don't go into one of the larger chains of pet stores. I didn't want to mention.
I'm glad you didn't do that.
Didn't want to mention one in particular.
That's good.
But because, yes, there can be disease there being transferred. But it doesn't mean that you can't have your dog walking on a leash, out into fresh air, in more remote places where there aren't a lot of dogs.
Right.
So get it out. Insist that the dog is handled and socialized with people. Even the best guard dogs that I've ever trained over the years, they were social dogs that learned martial arts. They weren't mean dogs that wanted to eat people.
Right. Right. I think it's a great determination. I mean, a great delineation because, we see here in Tucson a number of dogs that we get our owners to tell us they were bought for protection or they're guard dogs. And really they've had no training whatsoever. Yeah. And then we see the Border Patrol or ICE dogs come in who are, they can leap to a protective situation in one command, but they're perfectly wonderful as far as the level of their training and how they can act. And so there's a big difference.
I mean, dogs have pretty much tunnel attention. Again, not quite the right phrase, but when they're focused on aggression, it's pretty hard to get through to them. All right. So you have to actually practice these things in your training application that, no matter what, you can say when it starts, when it stops. And we always, what we called reintroduced. All right. So if my dog was acting aggressive towards somebody who didn't deserve it whatsoever, I would tell the dog to stop. And then I would tell the dog to make friends. And then that dog expected pets from that person that it was just acting aggressive towards.
Got it. Got it.
So it's a training. It's not a temperament.
Okay.
All right.
I think that's important.
So socialization is really important. I might have to add that S onto my knee because I do have more than one.
Yeah.
So it would work. It would work.
Yeah.
Because it's really important. Socialize them.
Let me take a break to stop for a second and tell you that Paul's going to tell you contact information if you'd like to speak to him directly or email him. Paul, give our listeners that contact information so they can have it.
Sure. My email is Paulie B Dog Trainer, PAULY, B as in boy, dog trainer @gmail.com. And my phone number is area code 520-429-5133.
So just to remind our listeners, this is a man who travels all over the country to do his work, and he is available. So if you have a problem situation, I couldn't recommend anybody more highly. So
and I'll help you research if
you've been good about that too, picking dogs and whatnot, right?
Yeah, I can help pick dogs out of litters. Or evaluate over Zoom type stuff. But also I can help you find a trainer if necessary in your area that has like-minded applications.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we didn't cover or something you wanted to add?
Well, I could talk for days.
I know that. Our podcast listeners may not enjoy that too much. So we definitely have a few minutes. So
No. I just think that people need to learn from their dogs. All right. And not be as quick to, I'm the alpha, with them. Okay. My dog, if I say shame to my dog is being punished. All right. I'd never lay a hand on the dog, never kick the dog, never throw anything at the dog. But in raising the dog up, if the dog bit me as a little puppy bite, I would tell the dog not to do that.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
And it's a lot about your voice tone and really expressing yourself. It's not about volume, all right? Because if somebody's screaming, you're not going to have confidence in that person, all right? If someone's talking really passionately about something and they have a little bit more in their voice to convince you, maybe I should listen to this passionate person, what they're trying to explain to me. But so the dogs are the same way. If you're screaming at your dog, if you're yelling at your dog, your dog's just going to say, "What the heck is wrong with him? He's lost or she's lost. I can't accept this. All right, I can't be confident in their leadership. So it's a matter of listen to your dog. Watch how your dog reacts to things. All right, don't punish when it's not deserving. Don't take it out on the dog.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Paul, I can't thank you enough. That was very enlightening. Again, any questions specific or you'd like to hear more about any of these topics, my website, drrandypetvet.com. There's you can email me, you can send questions to that area. We're on Facebook, Dr. Randy Pet Vet. We're on X. We're on a number of different modalities. So please keep an eye on us, like us, follow us. Thank you for listening today, and we'll be back with some more podcasts next month. Paul, thanks a million, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, good to see you.